Islam, Shalom, Hola, Aloha, Osio, Assalamu alaikum, Bonjour. This is your brother Zach Bey, Indigenous American Moor, coming to you live and in full effect. Thank you for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe to my channel, hit that thumbs up. It helps with the algorithm. Let's jump into it. I want to continue on my topic of reparations, what I believe and feel what reparations could potentially look like for the American Indians, the so-called Black people of America, the American Moors. All right. I believe a good way to start would be a anti-hate crime law passed to specifically protect us from anti-Black racism that's been going on with the indigenous people here in America, the Moors of America. Another great place would be land patents. All right, we need our land back, the land that's been stolen. Everything from the east of the Mississippi River that was taken during the Trail of Tears, and the Eastern Woodlands Tribe indigenous people were forcibly removed during the Trail of Tears to move westward into the territory of the Plains tribes. Oklahoma, I still have family out there. So all of the eastern seaboard, so-called the Virginia colonies, the original 13 colonies, all that stuff was taken from us. It was originally our land. We need our land back. So land patents would be a great way to start and protect us and our tribes, our nations, our families for generations to come, and it wouldn't be able to be taken away. Kind of like how they gave the Native Americans, which are not exactly the same as the American Indians, how they gave them reservations. I believe we should have cash payments, monetarily, individually. So not just per family, per household, for each individual person who has this label as a so-called Black, Negro, African American, American Indian, these misnomers that affect our people here in America. So to make sure it's not given to foreigners who do not have history here, it should be given to American Indians or people who can trace their lineage, mother, father, even themselves back to so-called Black status, the African American status, the Negro status, the American Indian status here in the country. Tax exemptions, or completely being non-taxed as our ancestors were, Indian non-taxed. We should definitely have protections against state and federal taxations, because for the most part they don't benefit us, and we shouldn't be taxed on our own land. If anything, taxes should be paid to us, tribute, honestly, like our ancestors did. Free healthcare. I believe free healthcare is given to a majority of people here in America, excluding so-called Black, African Americans, Negroes, but it is given to the so-called Native Americans, Eastern Plains, the Western Plains tribes, people who may be of East Asian or Mongolian or Siberian descent, the people who came over on the Bering Strait. So, those type of people, or that category of people, the Native Americans, they get free health care, and they have tax benefits as well. So it wouldn't be difficult for us to fall into that category, since we have been misclassified. Free education grants. If we want to pursue higher education, skills, trades, international skills, I believe we should be granted a free education through grants. Debt relief. I believe our people who are massively in debt who are of this land should never be in debt, because this land and everything on it belongs to us. So the fact that our people are indebted to others, to foreigners, to corporations, and are either forced into some type of servitude through debt slavery, or even debtor's prison, because that's supposed to be illegal, completely illegal here in America. People should not be placed into prison, jail, because of a debt. All right. And I believe that should also affect credit scores, FICA, TransUnion, all that stuff. We should have benefits and an increase in our tax score in the society. Lawful legal immunities. Lawful legal immunities, I believe we should have certain immunities to certain type of laws that have been specifically put in place to target our people, the indigenous people, the Moors of America, so-called Black, African American, Negroes. We should have certain immunity against those type of laws if they're not completely done away with. All right. So our own government and a remedy from the color of law. All right. So once you start learning law, you realize that we are victims of the color of law, which is not de jure law. We should have our sovereignty. All right. And that should be an autonomous, self-governing state here in America. We can have our own land. It can be done through equal segregation as far as our people to have our own land. I would liken it to, because people get a little turned off by the word segregation. But if you think how the Amish people live, how they live segregated from our modern society, they're able to erect barns, build all kinds of structures on their land without any type of permit, zoning. They don't have to answer questions to any kind of so-called state, local, or federal governing body as far as to operate and to do things on their land. So we should have that same type of sovereignty, but better, because they get that from us. If they're able to do it and they're not indigenous to this land, they're just foreigners who have been trained in a way to live on this land, and they're actually holding true to I believe the Amish are the closest to the people who are holding true to the promises, the treaties that have been broken between the Anglo-Saxon nations and the Moors of America, the indigenous people of America. They're living the closest to it, because they're not taking more than they need. They're not destroying the natural land. They're actually living on the land and off the land, as most of these colonizers, all of these colonizers should be. All of these colonizers should be living exactly how the Amish are living. No ifs, ands, buts about it. I believe we should have mandatory education on self-governance. All right. And that will be for the future. All right. So to liken it to something that already exists, there's Hebrew school. There's like schools for the so-called Jewish people that they go to learn their history, their heritage, and what their place in the world should be, and the negative parts of your history, to make sure that those are never ever repeated, so they can move forward in society. We need to set up that same exact thing. We can look at them and take what we need from that system, from the way that they're currently doing things. We can take that and we can mold it to our own and have those same values in order to advance our nation and our society. Once again, I believe it should be a mandatory education, because a lot of our people do not know how to operate internationally, even nationally as a nation does. So it should be a mandatory education to help mentally repair the damage that has been done through the John D. Rockefeller public education system, the indoctrination, and all of those psychological attacks that has been done on our people through the generations. All right, teaching us the wrong information, false history, a whitewashed history. All right, so we need to mentally repair our people so we can advance in the future, and we aren't going forward in the same falsehoods that have been perpetuated through maybe the last 150 years or so. Excuse me. All right. So you know what exactly we're up against as regards to how reparations can help repair the so-called Black community, African American, Negro, Moorish, the Indigenous American, the American Indian community. On average, a so-called white household has 10 times more wealth than the average so-called Black household. All right, that's on average nationwide here in America, the United States. All right, or Turtle Island, all the de jure names, Amexem, Morocco. All right, so here where we are now, if you are in what's so-called the United States of America, of course, it's the true land, Turtle Island, Morocco. The average Black family is behind 10 times the average white, so-called white family in wealth. A so-called white college grad has 7 times more wealth than their counterpart, so-called Black counterpart. All right, so a so-called Black person and a so-called white person both graduate college. So-called white person, they make 7 times more, coming from the same exact circumstances and situations. All right, just because the institutionalized systematic racism here in America. Also, a so-called white high school grad or dropout is hired more often than the so-called Black college graduate. All right, so you can look up these statistics and these facts yourself to verify the exact numbers, but right now this is what the data is representing, and this is exactly what it's saying. It says a so-called Black college grad is hired less than a so-called white high school grad, or even a so-called white high school dropout. All right, so the wealth gap is incredibly real, and it's a detriment to our people, and it's holding our people back through all the systematic and routine ways that it targets us, our people, our wealth, our economics, our history, our sense of self, our psyches, our children, our history and our future. All right, so reparations would help us to combat all of these issues and to better the world as a whole, because the Moors of all around the world are waiting on us Moors here in America to get this nation right and to lead the world into a more prosperous future, while others are trying to depopulate humanity and steal, kill, and destroy. All right, once again, this is your brother Zach Bey, Indigenous American Moor. Thank you for joining me. Peace.